on to another exciting episode for you. Today we have my friend Anand, and she wrote a book, Kiss Addiction Goodbye. And this is the book she wrote, and it's actually because her and her husband had some addiction opportunities in their lives that they were able to basically figure out and get over. You know, they first looked into like the Alcohol Anonymous 12-step program, which helped to some extent, but it was lacking and it didn't take them far enough, and that's why they researched a lot of stuff and came up with this book that takes it to the next level. This should be used in addition to Alcoholics Anonymous, 12-step program. This is very popular, and but this really will make it happen even better, even if you've been through that program. Because there's some components missing, because we are whole creatures more than just a psychological or a physical body, and what they really get into is the mind-body connection, and more specifically the connection with food. And so this is the book's called Kiss Addiction Goodbye: The 12-Step Diet to Aid Recovery and Help Address Addictive or Compulsive Behaviors. All right, and so in this episode, we're going to share with you guys the 10 tips that you guys can take from this book to help overcome your addictions. So, Anand, why did you end up writing this book, Kiss Addiction Goodbye?
Well, John, I wrote this book because, for me, my backstory is I suffered from an obsessive-compulsive disorder called self-injurious skin picking, and it was a very shameful habit that I had, and I didn't talk about it with anybody for literally a decade, and I was researching to try and cure myself and heal myself, and I even started an online forum for other people who suffered from this behavior, and lo and behold, years into trying to heal myself, I found out about raw food. And it was really, I was doing all the habit reversal stuff, I was doing the cognitive behavioral therapy, I was doing all sorts of other techniques to help myself, but it was really the food element. When I put that into my arsenal of things to overcome my behavior, all of a sudden, as I said to you, my physique started to be healthier. My skin didn't break out as much as it used to, and then my brain started operating on a higher level, and my neurotransmitters were being fed properly. So I realized, after transitioning to a more raw food oriented diet, months went by and I went, oh, I haven't picked at my face or obsessed over my skin or anything for months now. It must be working, and it did work.
Wow, so tell me about your husband and his story and how this book has also helped him.
Absolutely. So my husband is a recovering alcoholic, and that's actually my first top 10 hit tip is to not beat yourself up if you're dealing with any kind of addiction issue. And in the case of my husband, he is what I used to call him the king of the 30-day chip. And if you're familiar with the 12-step program, you know that when you fall off the wagon, you go back to a meeting and you say, hey, I'm a newcomer, even though he had been going there for years and years, he would fall off the wagon. Hey, I'm a newcomer, get another, newcomer chip. But he really was struggling with the demon alcohol for years and years and years, and so the two of us started doing more and more research to figure out why the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is, do not get me wrong, I love AA. I love AA. However, in some cases, it does fail some people because it's not just about a spiritual connection. There's the mental part of your body that creates addictions, and there's the physical part of your body that creates addictions. So you have to put the whole thing together to really find recovery. Whether you're dealing with alcoholism, whether you're dealing with drug addiction, smoking, overeating, sugar addiction, for me a process disorder, an obsessive compulsive disorder, we together found that you really have to put mind, body, spirit into action to really find true, long-lasting, long-term recovery.
So I know a lot of people out there, especially some raw foodists, may believe that cooked food is an addiction and you should kind of get rid of it. So would you consider cooked food addiction? I have my own opinions about this. I mean, I know it could, set off our, pleasure centers and all these things. And I mean, I would say probably junk food could be very addictive because, I mean, there are things in junk food, salt, sugar, and oil and fat, that really light us up and you want more and you crave more, but are you really craving it? I mean, and is it really addictive or do you just want it?
No, you want it because it's an addiction. Actually, there's a really great book called 12 Steps to Raw Food, Victoria Butenko, that she wrote this really great book. And I do recommend that to some people who are confused about raw food, and we're not 100% raw, but we still really do suffer from addiction to cooked food because there's all these deep-seated emotional, just like the comfort of, remembering chocolate chip cookies coming out of the oven and a little glass of milk, from mom when you're a kid. There's all these emotional memories, and absolutely those feed addiction. So your answer, that's a good question. And yeah, I think that cooked food is an addictive thing, to a degree.
So can this book help people out of their cooked food addiction? Because this book is about eating food.
It is. And actually in the book, I do talk about phasing yourself in terms of your diet, because here's a good story. We had a friend who saw one of these, Forks Over Knives, or one of these movies that encourages people to eat a vegan diet. And so this friend decided, he watched the movie and he got really excited, I'm gonna go vegan. And my husband and I looked at each other and we went, okay, we took bets on how long this was gonna last. Because I mean, this is a guy who would, eat hot dogs and, a lot of processed foods. And we were really happy that he had this newfound knowledge and desire, but at the same time, he jumped into the deep end of trying to adjust his diet. And sometimes if you try and go cold turkey like that, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So actually in the book, I actually have a phased, if you're on a standard American diet and you don't even know where to begin, I actually have some suggestions. Okay, cut out this, add this, cut out this, add this. And so that people can get there naturally and easily without feeling like they're drowning in, this newfound diet that they can't stick to.
So this book could also help you guys that want to be eating more plant foods, whether you want to go vegan, vegetarian, whatever you want to call it, or even raw foods. Yes. This will help you transition into that in a safe and effective manner.
Yes, that's true. Actually, Dr. Joel Furman actually looked at the book before we published it, and he was really happy that we were promoting a mainly vegan, vegetarian-oriented diet. He didn't like the fact that I was using transitional foods like egg and cheese for lacto-ovo to get to plant-based. But again, back to my, shall we talk about it? The top 10 tip is stop beating yourself up. That is the number one thing. We all beat ourselves up for, I'm not good enough, I'm not following the diet I should, I know that John is so healthy and gives me all these great tips about growing my greens and having a perfect garden in the backyard and I'm not doing it,
Everybody's at their own place,
exactly.
This is my life and I neglect other things in my life because I'm growing my food more and preparing food and making videos and all these things.
Yeah, so wherever you are, it doesn't matter. As long as you're you have that eye on the prize, that this is where you want to be heading, and you start heading there. So, yeah. And maybe that will be going through some transitional things. Maybe if you are a hardcore meat eater, and that's going to be hard for you to get rid of that addiction, well, there's ways for you to transition out of that to eat healthier and be healthier.
Yeah, I always encourage people, by the inch it's a cinch, by the yard it's hard, and not just trying to go cold turkey and reduce your meat by, 10%, still eating a lot of meat, but then the other 10% is all good, healthy vegetables, and over the next month, maybe do 20% and 30%, keep inching it up slowly but surely, and one day you're pretty much just not going to miss the meat or the cooked, heat processed, ultra processed food with the natural flavors and ingredients or whatever else.
No natural flavors. Watch out for the natural flavors.
All right, so this has already been really valuable for people I know, but let's go ahead and get into the tips, the 10 tips so that people could kiss their addiction goodbye.
Okay, so I talked about the top 10 tip. The top tip is do not beat yourself up, because, you know, we are not put here on this planet to be perfect angels. We came here for a learning journey, and we are thrust into all sorts of crazy situations and a crazy world around us, and you cannot beat yourself up for either your surroundings and or your reactions, because, you know, it's just a journey. It's all about the journey. So just don't beat yourself up. Give yourself a pat on the back, saying, hey, I'm still alive. I've made it through this day. I'm above ground. I'm not below ground. So there's, you know, God's not done with you yet, okay?
So it's easy to tell somebody, don't beat yourself up.
Yes, that's true.
But it's harder to actually do it yourself. I mean, my mom raised me as a perfectionist, which kind of sucks in some levels. And I'm like, you know what? I did the best job I could, and I'm all right. But what is some tip that you could leave people with right now so that they could, you know, besides just telling them not to beat themselves up, that'll help them not beat themselves up?
Well, you know, I would just treat yourself. I think the first thing that pops into my mind is treat yourself to just a really nice glass of water or something where you just, this just popped in my mind. Go and get yourself a nice clean glass of purified spring water and just focus your energy on that and feel the love in the water and drink it down and just be appreciative for the simple things of life. And, you know, and actually, you know, think about it when you go outside. Whatever you're looking at, whether, you know, it's a wall or a plant or whatever, just try and focus on something that you can appreciate with your eyes and have gratitude for it. So gratitude for the simple things. Oh, that's an extra tip.
Oh, wow, that's great. So what I would say is my tip is not coming from me, it's coming from Marissa up here, and I would just say, you are enough, and write that on your mirror. If you're a lady, write it in lipstick, and if you're a guy, do a permanent marker on your mirror in your bathroom, so that every morning when you wake up and look in the mirror, brush your teeth at night, you're seeing you are enough. And I think that right there will, you know, make a small change to let you know that you are enough.
Absolutely. Actually, you just reminded me, on our mirror in our bathroom, I use acrylic paint, actually. You use acrylic paint because you can use a razor blade. You know, if you're not in your house and you're renting, you can always razor blade it off. But I have I am loved right over my face when I look in the mirror, so that works too.
Wonderful. All right, so what is tip number 2?
Tip number 2 is understanding better the stresses and triggers that create your addiction. So actually in the book, I have actually charts that you can go through with emotions.
So like it's like a little workbook. People have to work through it to kind of like work on themselves.
Yeah, like you can kind of define what the emotional stresses, the cognitive stresses, the structural stresses in your body, metabolic stresses, and then especially these days, environmental stresses. We don't think that, like, you know, the EMF and cell phone signals flying around our heads 24 hours a day are having any effect on our addictions. But au contraire, those electromagnetic frequencies that are invisible to our eyes are just as influential over us as the invisible air we breathe. So that would be a good example. It's like, understand, that's just one tiny little potential stress, but there's stresses all around us, from emotional trauma to the environment stuff. Understand what you really need to get a lay of the land to see what are all the things out there that could trigger you into addiction. That you might even not even put 1 + 1 = 2, but you know, it's very possible that a cell phone tower near your backyard could create an addiction because it's offsetting your body chemistry. So there's a lot of things out there, and so it's really, really worth it to do some really deep inventory. You know, in the traditional 12-step program, they have you inventory your life to figure out, you know, what did you do that was bad? Who did you hurt? And, you know, how are you going to make amends for it? Absolutely, you got to do that. But on the other side, there's all these other factors like, okay, what I ate this morning for breakfast, that cup of coffee I had, that, the fact that it's ringing in my ears that my 5th grade teacher told me I was stupid, whatever it is, there's all these other factors out there that could create addictive responses, and they all could be triggers.
Yeah, I would say any stress or in your life, which could be as simple as your whatever air freshener in your car, the stupid thing that hangs, or like you're using Tide detergent that's fragrance.
But the air freshener is in the shape of a tree.
Right.
It's gotta be natural.
It's gotta be alright, right? If you wanted to use air fresheners, I would say, use essential oils that are true essential oils, not the fake essential oils. There's studies on that, burn some pine essential oil in your house, you might feel better and improve your cancer fighting ability because your natural T cells will increase or something like that.
Yep.
All right, that's a great tip. So what's tip number 3?
Tip number 3, and you're gonna like this one. It is learn the nature of protein. So there's been a lot of really wonderful research done over the past, 50 plus years, where they're discovering some of the genetic elements for addiction. In fact, back in the 70s, they were looking at the genetic ingredients for addiction, and there was a doctor, Dr. Kenneth Blum, who came up with the what's called reward deficiency syndrome back in the 1990s. And then Julia Ross, who some people know the Mood Cure book, it's a great book, and they all discovered that you could feed your brain to help make addictions lessen addictions through protein and increasing your intake of protein. Great idea, because when you eat protein, you get amino acids, because protein is basically bonds of amino acids. The place where they failed, in my humble opinion, I'm not a doctor, but where I saw them failing is they were not understanding the true nature of protein, which is not I will use my teaching tool now. This would be an example. This is a bunch of Legos with all sorts of individual amino acids all bound together in a nice big slab of steak, chicken, turkey, fish, what have you. This is what people normally think of as protein. But all it really is amino acids bound together. So when you think about amino acids, just simply, I gotta gather these up. So if you think of amino acids, they don't have to be bound together in a slab of anything. And what would you rather try and swallow? A bunch of lovely little free-form amino acids in the form of plant-based proteins? Or something that your body has to work extra hard with digestive enzymes to break down to get to this point? So that's a pretty big hurdle for a lot of people to overcome, because it's been drilled into our brains over and over again in the mainstream. Protein, when we first became vegetarians, my husband and I became vegetarians, like 25, 30 years ago, his dad kept saying, where are you getting your protein? Where are you getting your protein? It's the typical question that anyone who goes plant-based gets. And if you could explain to him, this does not mean protein. Protein is simply amino acids. And you can find amino acids anywhere. And in fact, there's Doctors Rick and Karen Dina wrote a wonderful book, and it's the Raw Food Nutrition Handbook. The Raw Food Nutrition Handbook. And so if you're dealing with somebody who's questioning you about your protein intake, grab that book, because they prove that calorie per calorie, romaine lettuce has the highest amount of protein over almost any other animal-based product. And except for I think it was wild duck or something like that. But the point is that you get plenty of protein, from plants. And here's the thing I do. When people ask me about animal protein, I say, well, here, look, here's my body. Look, it's still here. I can pinch. I still have functioning organs and muscles and working fingers, and I haven't had a bite of meat in 3 decades or more, and my body still seems to be building itself. So there you go. Learn the nature of protein. Don't be afraid of getting plant protein.
So how does protein deal with addiction? Is it because we need enough protein or the right types of protein so that, you know, we feel more centered and our brain chemistry works, or what is it exactly?
Thank you, good question. Thank you, let me clarify. So when they discovered one of the genetic foundations for addiction is neurotransmitter imbalance, and they were finding out that addicts and alcoholics and other people who have these addictive tendencies tend to have this deficiency in their neurotransmitters. So people were literally just not getting enough food to their brains to be able to have proper emotional responses, and instead of going to get a decent piece of protein, they would find you can actually fill your neurotransmitter receivers in your brain through other substances lickety-split fast. Like if you're an adrenaline junkie and you find that, you know, you need a fix, you need to go play a video game or jump out of an airplane or drink, you know, 5 Starbucks, you know, espressos, that you can do that and get that instant hit in your brain, or you can get adequate protein with the correct amino acids, and that craving for that adrenaline type response goes away. So in a nutshell, you can go to the addictive substance and your brain gets fed, or you can go to a nutraceutical, an amino acid, or the food that contains the amino acid, put that in your brain, and it'll fill the same receptors, and all of a sudden you don't want the thing that you crave.
So how do you know what amino acid you need?
Well, that's why you go to the book. I actually, based on the work of Kenneth Blum and Julia Ross and others, I actually created an amino acid discovery chart, and I have a little profile that you can go through and figure out what are the behaviors that you tend to do, and what are the substances or things that you do to help with your cravings. And then once you figure out where your highest deficiencies are, then we can analyze your results and figure out, oh, you know, for example, the adrenaline junkie, you know, you might be low in what are called the CATs, or catecholamines. You need dopamine, you need epinephrine, you need norepinephrine. And so what do? Well, you can take tyrosine, which is a nutraceutical. It's not a pharmaceutical, it's a nutritionally based supplement, like a vitamin or a mineral. Or you can go even deeper and you can increase the foods that contain tryptophan in your diet, and all of a sudden, if you're eating more of those foods, you can start to work against the desires for the things that are not serving you well.
So is it true that, you know, a plant-based diet...
We're getting deep here.
Yeah. So is it true a plant-based diet can basically give you all the different amino acids you need, so hopefully your brain will be operating properly?
It actually absolutely 100% can. Yeah. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that to me, if you look in the book here, every different food has different kinds of amino acids. So it's very important for me to eat a wide variety of foods and don't just eat, you know, 2 heads of romaine despite it having protein, according to Dr. Rick Carandina, and some bananas and some dates every day, right? I eat so many different kinds of foods in different ways, in juice form. I mean, today I had like 4 heads of romaine lettuce already in a green juice.
That's why you're so smart.
So, you know, I got my protein, but I would say honestly, I mean, I sell juices for a living, but juicing allows you to concentrate more phytonutrients and the proteins, and the foods that have the highest amount of proteins, like you were drinking earlier, was a spirulina or a chlorella juice or blue-green algae juice or liquids or, you know, powders, or in water. I like to get fresh spirulina when I can find that. Leafy greens have lots of protein. Microgreens and sprouts also very high in protein. Also, you could look up water lentils, or which is actually known as a duckweed. They make a powder or supplement. That's a whole food protein powder, highest in protein. You know. Oh, and then I take phytoplankton, has protein that feeds the big whales so they can get huge. All kinds of different kinds, and you know, I try to get all those into me at different points in my life to make sure I get all the different amino acids, because I don't know what's in this book. I just try to cover my bases and eat all kinds of crazy foods.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
And you just answered tip number 4, which is get more nutrient density. So everything that he just said is tip number 4. Get nutrient density through a wide variety of foods and eat them in their purest form as possible, and you're on a really good solid road to recovery with that kind of a program.
So everybody always says nutrient density. What does that mean specifically to you?
What does that mean to me? Well, I mean, I go by Furman's, ANDI system, the aggregate nutrient density index. Nutrient density to me means less calories, more vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, more stuff in my food. So if I'm gonna have a salad, I'm not just gonna eat pure lettuce. I'm gonna throw some hemp seeds on there. I'm gonna make sure my dressing is made out of like food, and instead of olive oil. We were talking about olive oil before. It's like we're trying to put a little more, avocado for the dressing or olives for the dressing. So nutrient density is just about eating more lower on the totem pole and as pure as possible, but still tasty.
Yeah, I would say for me, nutrient density is, like she said, whole plant foods
Yes.
in their minimally processed form as possible. That's why I grow a garden. I can harvest my greens, and I put trace minerals in the soil and microbes in the soil to grow high quality food and pick them and eat them immediately, and don't just put them in my fridge so that I have the highest level of nutrients. Now, I'm on probably the other level, and most people aren't going to do what I do because they're not, fanatical and crazy like I am. And some people probably say I'm, orthorexic, whatever you guys can think what you want. I'm just living my life how I want to.
Can I be orthorexic?
You could be if you want. Maybe you could get over that addiction with your kish addiction. But so for me, nutrient density is eating plant foods, especially
Yes.
On the top of the Andy scoring list. For people that don't know what that means, are like the leafy greens, the vegetables, and then the fruits are some of the highest ones. Then it goes down to other different kinds of plant foods, beans and grains and things like mushrooms. Even though may not be on the nutrient density index, they're very rich in different kinds of fibers and different kinds of nutrients that are really good for us. We want to eat whole plant foods
Yes.
with a focus on especially leafy greens, vegetables, and fruits, in my opinion, especially the berries. I mean, the G-bombs.
Yeah.
Look up Dr. Furman's G-bombs.
Yeah. Look it up. Yes.
All right, so I think we covered that tip pretty good.
Yes.
We're on to tip number, 5?
5. Yeah. 5 is and this is a new one for a lot of people. I mean, if you're a regular listener, watcher of John, you know that he encourages you to get your gut working properly, and I encourage you to through the use of fermented foods. And so, adding whatever you're having, whenever you're having a meal, whether it's cooked or raw, it doesn't really matter. Always try and add something fermented to your plate. Heal the gut, because most people don't really realize that our gut, our intestinal area of our body, is directly related to our brains. And so a lot of times when you're thinking, I want to go grab that, vodka cocktail, or I want to go have that shiny pink, iced donut, or I want to go have, get a hit, or whatever it is, it might be because not your brain is telling you to do it. It might be your intestinal system and the parasites and whatever else is down there is saying, feed me, feed me, feed me. So what you really want to do is really work to heal your gut and to get it as clean as you can, because when that's clean, then your thinking cleans up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely big on improving your microbiome. And I mean, fermented foods is one of many ways to do that.
Yeah.
Some gut doctors would say to eat a wide variety of foods, which is maybe even more important, as important or maybe even more important, because basically our gut bugs are eating whatever we're eating, and if you're eating, once again, a very limited diet, then your gut bugs only get to eat those items. You want to feed your gut bugs a smorgasbord in Las Vegas, where basically anybody could go and there's all these hundreds of different things somebody could eat, and you're always going to find something to eat. I always want my gut bugs to find something they're going to eat and incorporate new and different foods that I might not be eating, because some gut bugs will like those foods that I maybe haven't eaten in a year or two, or I'll get new gut bugs, or microbiome or whatever you want to call it, so increasing your diversity of foods, eating foods in different ways, we talked about that off camera a bit earlier, maybe heat processing some foods because that may influence gut bugs differently than eating the same food raw, maybe juicing the food might affect your gut bugs different than eating them raw or heat processed. Also, I like to take probiotic supplements. So some of the probiotic supplements I take are literally fermented foods in a capsule. Some of them are actually a white powder, and some are, researched, and some are not. I think those can be helpful in some situations, but I think a lot of them are just a waste of money.
Well, the reason why I bring up the fermented foods specifically is because we in the 21st century now don't realize that as Homo sapiens and human beings on planet Earth, if you drill down to every culture on the planet, each culture has fermented food in their diet, and it's only the Western standard American diet. All of a sudden we have thrown out all the natural ways of preserving food, which ended up being helpful to our digestion, and we've really lost touch with that entire art of fermenting and preserving foods through old-fashioned means. Actually, one of the things that I like to tell people about is that I think, this is a theory, this is an Anand theory, but I think that one of the reasons why we are all so addicted to sodas is because that historically, sodas didn't exist in the way that you had sugar syrup with some carbon soda pumped in it. No, sodas were either kombuchas or juns or sarsaparillas or what have you, and they were naturally fermented, fizzy drinks that had probiotics in them, and our brains knew after a meal, oh, I could use an extra little probiotic to help digest my food. And so you drink a little, you don't drink a big gulp of soda, but you drink a little shot of a digestif. And a digestif might be a fizzy type drink. And so we as humans have been doing this for thousands and thousands of years, and all of a sudden we've substituted this traditional digestive substance into something that has no relationship to what was there that we were using as human beings for thousands and thousands of years. So we really need to kind of dial it back and think, what were our ancestors eating before this last century, and look to see how the things they did were helpful for us.
Yeah, some of my favorite ferments are actually my spontaneous ferments where I will juice.
Yes!
I will juice and put the juice under vacuum in my
Yes.
fridge, and then the vacuum will somehow lose vacuum and it'll ferment.
Yep.
So it'll have like a fermented kind of juice. Like my favorite is like sugarcane juice when that happens. Sugarcane with lemon. It's spontaneously fermented.
Yes.
It's totally carbonated.
Yep.
It's so delicious. Let's say
And coconut water does it
yeah,
too.
coconut water. I mean,
Yeah.
coconut kefir. I have a video on how to make coconut kefir in a day. You can make it happen in a day if you want to.
So see, there you go.
Yeah, so
and it's really great for you.
Actually, my coconut milk that I have in my fridge before I came over is slightly fermented, so I'm going to turn it into my coconut, milk ice cream later today.
Yeah.
And then
No, the
preserve it.
sugarcane juice,
Lock
though,
it in.
that's like heaven.
Yeah. But also pineapple will relatively easily. I'll do like pineapple jicama juice. That was the last one that fermented in my fridge, pineapple jicama juice.
It's delicious.
Yeah, it was delicious because it's quite bubbly and maybe not quite as sweet, and then the jicama is also a very good microbiome builder. Due to the FOS or fucooglycosaccharides or what all these big large words.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Inulin, Anyways. All right, so let's move on to tip number 6.
6 is a tip that comes from the 12-step programs, and that is HALT. Don't ever let yourself get too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. And the thing is that in the 12-step programs, we don't want to get lonely and tired, but they don't talk about the hungry so much. And usually that means you show up and you're feeling a little strung out and let me go have a coffee and a donut. No, if you don't want to let yourself get too hungry, angry, lonely, tired, but when you hit that hungry point, make sure whatever it is you're reaching for is something that's going to serve you best for the long run. So always have something really good and nutritional around, no matter what. Have some nut, that have some good food around, so when you hit that point where oh my God, I'm hungry and I'm not thinking straight, you've got something good to reach for.
So what's your go-to food when you're hungry? What do you reach for?
Almonds, sprouted almonds, yeah.
Sprouted almonds.
Yeah.
Yeah, like today I brought juice with me, but
Or this too. I love, this is spirulina, blue-green algae in just distilled water. That's another one. Like if I can't think straight, I'll just...
Yeah, that's a good one. Has some probably essential fats in there too. Yeah. I would also recommend, something as simple as buying some fruit and taking it with you, right?
Yeah.
Or even some dried fruit. I would prefer fresh fruit because it has a higher water content, so it's going to hydrate at the same time.
Goji berries.
Goji berries. The fruit will also provide some natural sugar that'll help feed our brain and give us energy, so we may think better instead of getting some kind of processed sugar.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fruit is good food in the original fast food.
Yes.
All right, wonderful. So let's move on to tip number 7.
Tip number 7 is, we actually have already kind of covered it, but it's back to the amino acid supplementation is good. Okay, there are a lot of great nutraceuticals out there, but food is better. So again, there's a lot of great, if you're really struggling and you have a serious addiction, I mean, this is a serious topic, and your life is being slowly eroded by your addiction. Absolutely, please get yourself the help of a good, solid, integrative physician, and that's somebody who understands the body as a holistic system, and they can help you with, IV, nutritional IV therapies that will help, like if your gut is not working as well as it could, and your brain's not really getting enough supplementation, they can actually IV these nutraceuticals into your bloodstream so that you can kind of get a kickstart. And that's all good, but food with cofactors is better. But, so it's, you got to do everything.
So you really are reiterating the protein concept, but more importantly, the proper amino acids. You want to say that tip again because it is so important to have the proper amino acids so we can make the proper neurotransmitters so you can think straight and be straight.
Exactly. It really is revolutionary information that is out there, but it's not in the mainstream. I mean, if you go to a typical 12-step meeting, they are teaching you wonderful things about how to get your mental house in order and how to get your spiritual house in order, but they don't talk to you about getting your physical house in order. So those amino acids are really, they're the pin and the key to really figuring out why you do the things you do.
Wonderful. So besides like the self-assessment that you have in there so somebody can figure out like what amino acids they might need, is there a way to get a blood test or a functional practitioner could do something so you could say, oh, you're deficient in these ones and this is what you need?
Exactly. Yes, you can. You can go to there's some places online where you can test this, get these things tested yourself. However, I really do recommend having a good, trusting, solid, integrative physician to help you, a naturopath or a holistic practitioner, to do the test with you, because it really helps to have somebody else with that medical experience to analyze your results, because you actually could do yourself harm if you just say, you could do the little profile and say, I'm low in tyrosine, just like down a ton of tyrosine tablets or OD on pumpkin seeds or something. You really don't want to do that. You really want to have a partner to help you move forward in the supplementation.
So they would do a blood test then?
You could do a blood test, absolutely. I've had my blood tested, my husband's had his blood tested. We learned where our levels were a little bit off, and we adjusted accordingly.
So now we're on to tip number 8. So what is tip number 8?
Tip number 8! Get your body moving! The fastest way to detox is to move. We talk about the blood system, we talk about, the brain neurotransmitters, but the surest way to get healthy and detox yourself is to allow your trash waste system to get moving, and that is your lymphatic system, your lymph system. If you've had too much to drink or you've done something that you shouldn't have done, the fastest way to get healthy is to get your lymph moving through movement, through jumping, through sauna. This should really be the number 1 tip. Detoxing in the lymphatic system is, again, one of those things that not a lot of people talk about, and it is crucial to health.
Yeah, some very simple ways to do that. Buy a little mini trampoline. maybe call it a rebounder if you want to pay $200 for it, or you just go to, a store, Walmart, and buy a mini trampoline for $30 or whatever, and jump on that and bounce on that. That'll easily help you to clean your lymph. If you want to go for the machineries, you can lie down in bed and do it. You want to get a chi machine, they shake your legs. I've had all these different gadgets and things over the years I've loved on. Each one of them is kind of cool in their own
Vibration plate.
Yeah, vibration plates is another way to do that. I mean, of course, just go out for a run or a walk, do jumping jacks. I mean, we need to start moving. People are too sedentary these days. I mean, I'm out all day in my garden moving, I go shopping and run around here and there, and I could probably do a little bit more biking myself, but...
Well, you said if you go to the park, if you run, here's something I bet a lot of you haven't thought about for a long time: skipping. Skipping is huge for lymph, because one of the things about moving lymph is you want to kind of go against the with gravity and a lot of these vibration plates things. They're trying to like mess up with the gravity to get the lymph actually moving. And skipping, next time you go to the park, go skipping, and you literally feel like you're flying as you're,
It's funny.
It's fun and it's great for you.
Cool. They got these shoes that are like springs that you can just bounce and hop. I got a
Do you
pair.
have one of those?
Yeah, like in my house. Those
You
are
gotta do a
crazy.
video of that.
I
want to see a
I think I bought them and I never tried them because they're
All
kind of
right,
dangerous.
if you want to see a video of John skipping in bouncy shoes, put a comment below.
Yeah, right. All right, so anyways, on to tip number, 9?
9. Okay, this is going to be controversial with some people, but stop it with plant medicine, okay? A lot of people...
So what, like no herbs and stuff?
Entheogens.
I don't know what that is.
Well, like DMT and ayahuasca and a lot of these journeys. So there are actually some clinics out there that use plant medicine to help people heal from addictions.
So like, name what they are, magic mushrooms.
Magic mushrooms, specifically ayahuasca is a really, they use it in several clinics. And, again, maybe it works for some people, but I'm not convinced that that's the best thing to do for an addict. An addict is, if their body and their mind is already not quite in alignment and healthy, you might be giving them an opportunity to see God or whatever, or have some journey, but more likely you're just adding more toxicity on top of an already toxic situation. Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, I spoke with, Gabriel Cousins. I had a talk with Gabriel Cousins about this, and I said, I don't get it. And I love what he said. He said it's like trying to go to the top of the building where God is by taking a high-speed elevator, and you don't really know how you got there. And he says it's much better to do with the detoxing and yoga and meditation and eating properly. It's like taking the stairs, and by the time you get to the top floor, you know how you got there and you know how to get there again. So yeah, I've actually seen quite a bit of these entheogens used, and I really think it's kind of like a buzzword thing where people who are desperate, really, when you're dealing with an addiction and your life is falling down all around you, you do get desperate, and you're like, just tell me anything, give me a quick fix, give me a quick pill, whatever, to get me well again. And sometimes this is, proposed to people as a potential quick fix. And there's really no quick fix. You really have to look at your body and your life in a holistic manner and realize that if you just apply the things that you know at this point in time and keep working ahead, you will get there. You will find recovery.
Wow, and that brings us to number 10, the final tip.
Yes. So, final tip is everything is connected, and watch everything you consume. So it's not just, we've talked a lot about food. And we've talked a lot about, amino acids and nutrients, and what we need to understand is that everything that we consume will affect not only our minds and our minds, but it also will affect our physique. So when you are watching, let's say, a really violent movie, or you're playing a violent video game, or you're listening to the toxic news and hearing all these depressing things that are upsetting you, you don't realize that is having a deep chemical reaction in your body. And and it's doing harm to you, so you need to learn how to either turn it off or turn up to more higher vibration media or more higher vibration friends, or just, you know, learn to do things a little bit differently than you've ever done before.
Yeah, wow, that's definitely a deep one, and I would say, like, anything that we could bring in through our senses is something that we are consuming. Whether that's, you know, TV or radio or somebody else's energy,
Yes.
or an animal's energy,
Yeah.
you know, or smelling toxins and perfumes, or, I mean, anything that we're touching and feeling, like if you're changing oil in your car and that gets on you, I mean, you're consuming that oil, it goes through your skin. I feel it. I stopped buying gas because I spilled gas on my fingers once and I felt it go in, and then they're spraying me with this other toxic stuff to get it off. I'm like, screw this, I'm not going gas anymore, I'm going biodiesel, and then I went electric, and I'm never going back. So, you know, it's like all these little things we are literally consuming. I mean, when you're pumping gas in your car, you're smelling the fumes.
Yeah.
You are consuming gas fumes. In California, there's a Prop 65 warning that says it could cause cancer. In other states, I don't think they have that.
No.
You know? I mean, oh yeah, when you're touching different things, you're absorbing things through your skin.
Yeah. I'd actually like to really restate the thing about media in particular. A lot of people don't understand about hypnosis, and so, and this really does play into the addiction scene very strongly. So most people, when they think of, you know, hypnosis, I don't have to, here's some keys. They think like, ooh, you're getting very sleepy. No, that's not the standard way that a lot of hypnotists work. They actually do a thing called a PGO strike. If you've ever seen like one of these crazy hypnotic hypnosis shows where people, like, you know, act like chickens or whatever, they do a thing called a PGO strike. It's a Ponto Geniculo. It's PGO. Anyway, what they do is they do a very fast trauma that puts your brain in a very receptive state to get new information. And so, like, if you see these guys, like a lot of times at the hypnosis shows, they'll, like, you know, hit somebody on the arm, or they'll, like, tap them on the head, like, they'll do something very unexpected and traumatic to them. And then, of course, then those people are instantly open to suggestion to do things. Well, guess what happens when you watch a TV show or movie where people are going bang, bang, bang? It's very traumatic to your subconscious and your psyche. And then the next thing you know, here, have a refreshing cold beer. You know, this is happening over and over in our culture, and we're not even aware of it. We're just watching the entertainment and media and getting, you know, feeling good and like feeling excited about what we're watching, and we don't realize that right behind all those traumatic images that we're seeing and we're taking in, they know exactly what they're doing. Because if you think about it, Disneyland is not there to sell rides. Disneyland is there to sell sodas and souvenirs. So they want to get you, you know, I'm using Disneyland as an example, but the idea is they want to get you like scared on a ride so that you go and you want to soothe yourself and buy stuff. They're doing the same thing on TV, they're doing the same thing in the movies, they're doing the same thing on the internet. So watch peaceful, loving, educational stuff like John. And improve your life and just turn off all that dramatic, chaotic weirdness, and you will be surprised that you might have a radical shift in your cravings for comfort substances and comfort habits.
And I would actually say is I want you guys to get off screens. Don't watch TV or don't watch YouTube. Yeah, turn me off now. Get back to nature. Go out for a hike. You know, every day I'm in my garden gardening and connecting with nature. I mean, that is a much more peaceful place, and observing the birds and the bees, eating my seeds and pollinating my fruits, and while I'm drinking my juice in the garden, just relaxing, listening to some nice healthy music I enjoy.
That's nice. Yeah, I mean, really, you want to get out of the addiction cycle. That is the best advice. Just get off the screens and start living the life that you've always wanted to live.
Exactly, and instead of living vicariously through somebody else's
it's out there.
Images or movies or videos.
Yeah.
Right, wonderful. All right, so now one last to-go tip, because we're going to sign off here. You have to tell somebody one more thing to help them kiss their addiction goodbye. What would it be?
I would say this. You are valuable. You are so loved. You exist here for a reason. I love you. John loves you. We love you. You have got some major song to sing on this planet, so it's time to get rid of that stuff that distracts you from doing what you came here to do. You got a message, you have a mission, you have beautiful work to do here, so get to doing it.
Wow, that's so important, so valuable. I hope that really positively affected your life by listening to this episode today packed full of information. Unfortunately, we can't cover everything in this, 300-page book. In just a short video, there's a lot more that can help you change your life and kiss your addiction goodbye. So how can somebody buy your book?
It's easy, 12stepdiet.com.
Easy12stepdiet.com. I'll put a link down below. If somebody wants to contact you with questions or something, how can somebody do that?
We have a Facebook page. Whole Way Home is the place where my husband and I have been teaching classes about raw chocolate and addiction.
That's addictive.
I know. And addiction issues. So on Whole Way Home on
Facebook.
Yeah.
All right, I'll put a link down below to that. So thank you for being on my show, and I hope this was valuable to you viewers out there. If you guys enjoyed this episode with Anand, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Also, please be sure to share this with other people that you can think it could help. Spread it around your 12-step program so that they could take that to the next level and focus on the mind, body, and learn about some of these tips so that we can all become better people on the planet. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you notice my new upcoming episodes that come out every 5 to 7 days. You know more or sharp or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel to enhance your health. And also make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. The past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 600 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel dedicated to teach you guys all about how to eat more fruits and vegetables, which in my opinion are the best foods on the entire planet. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.